It was a cold, rainy day, and the coffee shop was warm and quiet. The air smelled of coffee and chocolate. People sat at tables, drinking coffee, talking, or reading books. The sound of the rain outside could be heard on the windows. A boy named Tim sat alone at a table by the window. He was 12 years old. He wore a red jacket, blue jeans, and a baseball cap. He had a cup of hot chocolate in front of him. Tim liked to come to the coffee shop after school. He liked it here because it was peaceful. Tim wasn't in a hurry. He looked outside at the rainy street. Cars were moving slowly, and people were walking with umbrellas. Some people walked fast to avoid the rain. Other people didn't seem to mind the wet weather. They walked slowly and looked up at the sky. Tim picked up his notebook and began to draw. He liked to draw pictures of people he saw. He drew a man who was sitting at a table near him. The man was reading a book and drinking coffee. Tim liked the way the man looked, so he started to draw him in his notebook. As Tim drew, the door of the coffee shop opened. A woman came in, shaking water off her umbrella. She looked around, smiled, and walked to the counter to order a coffee. She paid for it and then turned to find a seat. She saw Tim sitting by the window. "Hello," the woman said. "What are you drawing?" Tim looked up at her. "I'm drawing the man sitting over there," he said quietly. The woman smiled. "That's nice. I like how you draw people. You're very good." Tim smiled shyly. "Thanks. I like to draw." The woman nodded. Drawing is a good way to share your thoughts and feelings. Keep drawing. Maybe one day, your drawings will tell a story. Tim liked that idea. He thought it would be fun to make a story with his pictures. The woman went to sit at another table. Tim went back to his drawing. The rain stopped after some time. The sun came out, and the street was shiny. Tim finished his drawing and put his notebook in his backpack. It was time to go home. Tim walked to the door of the coffee shop and looked outside. He saw the wet street and people walking by. He felt happy. He loved coming to the coffee shop, drinking hot chocolate, and drawing. Tim smiled as he stepped outside into the fresh air. He couldn't wait to come back again next week. The next week, Tim came back to the coffee shop. It was his favorite place to go after school. He liked the quiet atmosphere, the warm drinks, and the chance to draw. Today, the weather was better. It was sunny, and there were no clouds in the sky. Tim entered the coffee shop and saw the same barista, the woman who worked at the counter. She smiled at him. "Hi, Tim. Back again?" she asked. Tim smiled and nodded. "Yes, I like coming here." He walked to his usual spot by the window. There were already a few people in the shop, reading books or talking to each other. Tim sat down at his table and ordered a hot chocolate. The barista gave him a big mug, and Tim took a sip. It was warm and sweet. He opened his backpack and pulled out his notebook. He was excited to draw today. He liked the idea of drawing new people and new things every time he came to the coffee shop. As Tim started to draw, he noticed a woman sitting alone at a table near him. She was wearing a bright yellow scarf and reading a newspaper. Her glasses were small and round, and she looked very focused on her reading. Tim thought she looked interesting. He decided to draw her. The woman looked up from her newspaper and saw Tim drawing her. She smiled at him. "Hello," she said kindly. "Are you drawing me?" Tim looked up, surprised. He had not expected her to notice. Yes, I am. I hope that's okay." The woman laughed softly. "Of course, it's okay. I think it's nice that you're drawing me." You have a good eye for details. I can see you're very focused. Tim smiled. Thank you. I like to draw people. The woman looked at his drawing. It's very good. Do you ever think about writing stories to go with your drawings? Tim thought about it. He had never really thought about writing stories before, but it sounded fun. Maybe I will, he said. The woman nodded. You should. Maybe your drawings could tell a story, like a book. You have a talent for it. Tim felt happy. He hadn't thought about making a story with his drawings, but now it seemed like a good idea. He thanked the woman and went back to drawing. The barista came over to Tim's table and asked if he wanted another hot chocolate. Tim smiled and said, yes, please. He liked coming here. It was a peaceful place where he could draw, relax, and enjoy his drink. After finishing his second hot chocolate, Tim packed his things. It was almost time to go home. He looked at his drawing again. The woman with the yellow scarf had become part of his little story. Maybe she was a character who loved reading newspapers in coffee shops. Tim thought about what her story could be and felt excited about drawing more. Tim stood up, put his notebook and backpack in his bag, and waved goodbye to the barista and the woman with the yellow scarf. As he stepped out of the coffee shop and into the bright sunshine, he felt proud of the pictures he had made.